Focke-Wulf 190 climbs into hostile skies, German markings blazing on its wings. At the controls sits an American pilot with no parachute, no radio, no map. He knows every Allied fighter in the air will try to kill him. This is the story of how one pilot's refusal to accept captivity led to the most audacious escape of World War II and changed the course of aviation history forever. Bob Hoover's hands rest steady on unfamiliar controls. His pulse hammers. The fuel gauge shows just enough. Maybe. Below him stretches occupied Germany. Ahead lies freedom or death. Behind him, 16 months of hell. February 9, 1944. The Mediterranean gleams silver beneath winter clouds. 22-year-old Flight Officer Robert Anderson Hoover banks his Spitfire Mark V into formation off the coast of southern France. His 59th combat mission. 58 times he has returned. Routine has become dangerous. Confidence has made him careless. The 52nd Fighter Group operates from Corsica, one of only 2 American units flying British Spitfires in the Mediterranean theater. Hoover loves the machine. Sleek, responsive, deadly in the right hands. But today something feels wrong. The engine coughs. A vibration through the stick. Minor. Probably nothing. Then the radio crackles. Bandits. For Focke-Wulf 190s diving from the sun. Hoover's flight scatters. One wingman already carries a drop tank. Dead weight. A death sentence in a dogfight. Hoover reaches for the tank release. Pulls the handle. Comes off in his hand. The external fuel tank stays locked beneath his fuselage. 4 against 4 becomes 4 against 1 in seconds. His wingmen flee. Standard procedure. Get out. Survive. Fight another day. But Hoover sees one of his pilots spiraling into the Mediterranean. Smoke trailing. The German who shot him down pulls up for another pass. Something snaps inside Hoover. He turns into the attack. Head on. 2 fighters screaming toward each other at combined closure speed exceeding 600 miles per hour. Whoever flinches first dies. Hoover doesn't flinch. His guns hammer. Tracers arc across the sky. The Focke-Wulf's engine erupts in flame. Black smoke billows. Victory. His first kill. His last. The 3 remaining Germans converge. Hoover hears shells ripping through aluminum. Feels the Spitfire shudder. The engine seizes. Oil sprays across his canopy. Altitude bleeds away. The Mediterranean rises to meet him. For hours later, a German corvette drags him from the water. Soaked. Defeated. Alive. They take him to the Continental Hotel in Cannes. German officer headquarters. Interrogation. Then north. To Stalag Luft I, a prisoner of war camp at Barth on the Baltic Sea. Reserved for Allied airmen. 9,000 men from America, Britain, Canada. All pilots. All grounded. The camp squats on a peninsula jutting into gray water. Barbed wire. Guard towers. Searchlights that sweep the compound through endless nights. Wooden barracks built low to the ground. Trenches dug beneath for guard dogs to patrol. Any attempt to tunnel means discovery. Any attempt to escape means solitary confinement. Beating. Sometimes worse. Hoover tries anyway. 24 times over 16 months. 24 failures. Each one earns days in a concrete cell. No light. No sound. Only cold and hunger and the knowledge that thousands of Allied bombers are winning the war while he rots behind wire. Red Cross parcels keep them alive. Food, clothing, medicine. When supplies dwindle in late 1944, parcels are cut to half portions. Men grow thin. Faces become hollow. But hope persists. The Russians are coming from the east. The Americans from the west. Germany is collapsing. Any day now. Hoover meets another prisoner. Gus Lundquist, a test pilot from Wright Field who had volunteered to fly one combat mission, just one, and got shot down. Lundquist had been to England before the war, had evaluated captured German aircraft, had actually flown a Focke-Wulf 190. They talk for hours. About flying. about right field, about what comes after. When Hoover mentions wanting to be a test pilot, Lundquist's face lights up. He is from right field. He knows the men, the aircraft, the procedures, and he knows the FW-190 inside out. One day Lundquist begins sketching in the dirt. The cockpit layout, control positions, startup sequence, fuel management, landing gear operation. He draws it again and again until Hoover can close his eyes and see every switch, every gauge, every control surface. Knowledge stored against a future that seems impossible. By April 1945, the end is close. Russian artillery rumbles on the horizon. German guards desert their posts. The remaining officers know defeat is inevitable. They stop caring, stop watching. The camp slides into chaos. General Eisenhower sends word. All prisoners are to remain in place. Liberation is imminent. Attempting escape now with the front lines fluid and confused means risking death from your own side. Stay put. Wait. Bob Hoover has spent 16 months waiting. He is done waiting. A riot erupts one night. Thousands of prisoners staging fights, creating pandemonium. Some are genuinely angry. Most are creating distraction. The guards rush to one side of the compound. Hoover, Jerry Ennis from the 52nd Fighter Group, and a Canadian airman named George find a plank beneath one of the barracks. They run to the fence, prop the board against barbed wire, climb over, drop into darkness. They are out. George heads his own direction almost immediately. Hoover and Ennis push through woods along the Baltic coast. They gather wood and vines, build a crude raft. Jerry climbs aboard. Bob pushes him out into the water. The raft drifts into night. They reunite at dawn on the opposite shore. They find a farmhouse. A lone German woman answers their knock. She sees exhausted men in filthy clothes, hollow eyes, desperation. She gives them food, a meal, the first real food in months. When they prepare to leave, she hands Jerry a pistol, small, French-made. She tells them it will do them more good than it does her. She is right. They steal bicycles, pedal west through a Germany tearing itself apart. Russian soldiers are everywhere, brutal, unforgiving. The Russians believe any man captured by the Germans must be a collaborator, a traitor. Hoover and Ennis learn quickly to claim they were shot down over Berlin, that they have been evading ever since. Never captured, never imprisoned. The lie saves their lives more than once. They witness atrocities. Russian soldiers executing German civilians, burning homes, the chaos of total war's final days. They push on. West, always west. They find refuge in a walled compound. Former French forced laborers sheltering from Russian violence. More than 50 people crammed into farm buildings. Jerry speaks French. The French open their arms. That night, sleeping in a hayloft, a Russian tank crashes through the compound wall. Soldiers pour in. Hoover and Ennis bury themselves in hay. Russian bayonets stab down. Probing. Searching. The steel comes within inches. Jerry starts speaking French. Someone in the compound understands. Explains they are Allied pilots. The Russians lower their weapons. Barely. Hoover and Ennis leave at first light. Days blur. Exhaustion. Hunger. Fear. Then they stumble onto something impossible. An abandoned Luftwaffe airbase. Just inside the German border. Deserted except for a skeleton ground crew. And row after row of aircraft parking revetments. Concrete berms designed to protect planes from bombardment. Hoover's heart hammers. He walks from one revetment to another, inspecting. Most of the planes are wrecked. Battle damage. Missing parts. But then he finds one. A Focke-Wulf 190. Reconnaissance variant. Bullet holes in the fuselage. But the wings look intact. The propeller undamaged, and the fuel gauge reads full. A German mechanic appears, demands they halt. Jerry raises the French pistol. Hoover motions the mechanic closer. The German speaks no English. Jerry tries French. It works. The mechanic understands. Jerry tells him if he does not help get this plane airborne, he will kill him. The mechanic's face goes white. Hoover climbs into the cockpit. Everything Gus Lundquist taught him floods back. The panel layout, the controls, but the labels are all in German. The mechanic reaches in, points, pulls switches. The BMW radial engine coughs, catches, roars to life. The entire aircraft vibrates. Jerry and the Canadian will keep the gun. Will use it to escape on foot. The FW-190 has only one seat, one chance. Hoover has no parachute, no navigation equipment, no radio, no way to identify himself to Allied fighters. If he is spotted, he will be shot down. No questions, no mercy. He does not taxi to the runway. No time. He slams the throttle forward. The fighter lurches across grass, gathering speed, bouncing. The engine screams. He pulls back. The nose lifts. The wheels leave Earth. He is airborne in an enemy fighter, heading west, flying toward Allied lines that will see German markings and open fire. Bob Hoover knows one thing Gus Lundquist taught him. The FW-190 is faster than any Spitfire at low altitude. If Allied fighters find him, he will run. Low, fast. He will bet his life on German engineering. The minutes crawl. Every shadow could be a fighter. Every speck on the horizon could mean death. He has no map, no compass he can read. He flies by the sun. West, always west. His stomach is knotted, his jaw clenched, his hands perfectly steady. Then he sees them. Windmills. The Netherlands. Allied territory. Freedom. He sets up to land in a farmer's field. Drops the landing gear. The wheels lock down. He throttles back. The FW-190 settles. Touches down. Rolls to a stop. He climbs out. His legs nearly buckle. 16 months as a prisoner. Days on the run. An hour in a stolen enemy fighter. He has made it. Then he sees the farmers, running toward him, armed with pitchforks and axes, faces twisted with rage. They see the German markings, the swastikas. They think he is Luftwaffe, an enemy. They are going to kill him. Hoover raises his hands, tries to explain. They do not speak English. They do not care. The pitchforks come closer. This is how it ends. Not shot down in combat. Not executed in camp. Killed by Dutch farmers who think he is the enemy. A British supply truck rumbles down the road. Hoover shouts, waves. The truck stops. British soldiers pile out. They speak to the farmers. Explain. Calm them. Hoover is American. A prisoner who escaped. A pilot who stole an enemy plane and flew it to freedom. The farmers lower their weapons. Some shake their heads. Some laugh. A few pat him on the back. One offers him water, another food. Bob Hoover stands in a field in the Netherlands next to a German fighter. He does not know how to land properly. 16 months after being shot down. Free. He flies home to America aboard a transport. To briefing in San Antonio. Medical exams. Questions. So many questions. Then he mentions right field to the right person. Colonel Marvin McNichol, his former commanding officer from the 52nd, now assigned to the Joint Chiefs of Staff. McNichol makes calls, pulls strings. Right field needs test pilots, but they require engineering degrees. Hoover has none, but he has something better. Combat experience, testing aircraft in Morocco, and the kind of resourcefulness that steals an enemy fighter and flies it to freedom. General Fred Dent, commander at Wright-Patterson, gives him a chance. By the end of 1945, Bob Hoover is a test pilot, flying experimental aircraft, pushing machines to their limits. P-80 jets, F-84 Thunderjets, F-86 Sabres, the newest, fastest, most dangerous aircraft in the American arsenal. He meets another test pilot, a cocky fighter ace named Chuck Yeager. They become friends after a spontaneous mock dogfight ends in a draw. Both men are chosen for a top-secret project, the Bell X-1, an aircraft designed to break the sound barrier, to fly faster than any human has ever flown. Yeager is the primary pilot. Hoover is his backup. And on October 14, 1947, over the Mojave Desert, Hoover flies chase as Chuck Yeager breaks Mach 1. The first human to exceed the speed of sound. Hoover is there, watching, witnessing history. He later admits he wished it had been him. But he never begrudges Yeager the achievement. They remain friends for life. In 1948, Hoover leaves the Air Force. He joins North American Aviation as a civilian test pilot. For 36 years, he tests experimental aircraft, sets records, trains military pilots, flies combat demonstrations in Korea to prove new bombing procedures work. But the world knows Bob Hoover for something else. Air shows. For 50 years, he barnstorms across America and the world. Flying a bright yellow P-51 Mustang he names Ole Yeller. Later, a twin-engine Shrike Commander. He performs aerobatics the aircraft were never designed to do. Loops rolls. His signature move, cutting both engines mid-flight, using only momentum and gravity to execute a loop, land, and taxi to the crowd. All without power. Jimmy Doolittle calls him the greatest stick and rudder man that ever lived. Chuck Yeager says Bob Hoover is the best pure pilot he ever met. Pilots call him the pilot's pilot, the one they all respect, the one they all want to be. He revolutionizes aerobatic flying, inspires generations of aviators, receives the Distinguished Flying Cross, the Soldier's Medal, the Air Medal with clusters, the French Croix de Guerre, inducted into the National Aviation Hall of Fame in 1988. The Aerospace Walk of Honor in 1992. His final air show performance comes in 1999 at Luke Air Force Base. He is 77. Too old to get insurance. Too proud to fly unless he can do it properly. He retires. But he never stops being Bob Hoover. He dies October 25, 2016. 94 years old. Congestive heart failure. His memorial service draws the greatest names in aviation. Harrison Ford delivers a speech. Thunderbirds and snowbirds fly overhead. F-22 Raptors alongside F-86 Sabres. World War II aircraft in missing man formation. The sky itself pays tribute. 20 years before his death, at an air show in Pennsylvania, a young man approaches. Says there is someone in the crowd who claims to have been at Stalag Luft I with Hoover. Hoover laughs. Thousands of men pass through that camp. But the young man mentions a name. Jerry Ennis. Hoover stops laughing. Jerry Ennis. The man who escaped with him. Who spoke French to the German mechanic. Who helped him steal that FW-190. They had not spoken in 2 decades. Did not know if the other had survived. They reunite. 2 old men who once climbed a fence in the chaos of war's end, who walked through hell together, who stole an enemy fighter and made it home. They talk for hours about the escape, the Russians, the flight to freedom, things they had never told anyone else. Bob Hoover never claimed to be a hero. He called himself lucky, a pilot who loved flying more than anything, who refused to let 16 months of captivity break him, who saw an opportunity and took it, who bet everything on skills learned by watching another pilot sketch in dirt. The Focke-Wulf 190 he stole was never recovered, likely scrapped or lost to history, but the story remains. One pilot, one escape, one impossible flight that defined a generation's understanding of courage, resourcefulness, and the refusal to accept defeat. Bob Hoover proved that sometimes the greatest achievements come not from following orders, but from knowing when to break them. Not from waiting for permission, but from seizing the moment. Not from accepting your circumstances, but from changing them through sheer will and skill. He departed in a Spitfire. He came home in an enemy fighter, and he spent the rest of his life showing the world what a pilot can do when talent meets determination. When fear is acknowledged but not obeyed. When the only acceptable outcome is freedom. This was just one of countless untold stories from the Second World War. If you want to hear more forgotten chapters of history, subscribe and hit the bell icon. Drop a comment telling us which WW2 story you want to hear next.